Hello, everyone. I am Rey Saldaña, National President and CEO of Communities in Schools. I find myself introducing myself often, but I hope that folks who are tuning in know who I am, but know more importantly, the work that we do. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our community chat. This is our back to school edition. And as you know, last year really presented new heightened challenges for many of our students and our families. We're going into a season back to school. Some of you already in school who are seeing those challenges in new ways, some expected, some unexpected. And on that same note, I want to make sure that we take a moment to just acknowledge and think about our friends in Louisiana, in Gulf South, CIS of Gulf South. We have staff who is in the New Orleans area that was hit tremendously hard by Ida, really 16 years almost to the date since Hurricane Katrina. And in understanding what it means to be all in for kids means that we have to be all in for one another and our family. And we extend just our thoughts and our prayers and our hopes for what will be a recovery effort for some of our friends and our family who are in Louisiana. So I want to acknowledge them and lift them up as we think about the challenges that we are facing. And oftentimes we think about the challenges as things that we could have predicted. And in some ways, this is a kind of work that is, one crisis after another, but that's the center of our work. And so this fall, Communities in Schools, we're working as always to ensure that students have everything they need to re-engage in the learning process, no matter if they're learning at home or returning to the classroom, which many of our students are. And our focus is to connect them to essential resources that they need, like food and clothing and school supplies, to really help them overcome the challenges of the past year and get back on track for success in school. We do that, of course, with our school-based staff working alongside our teachers and our principals all across the country. And I want to say that as a national organization, the thing that we are blessed to have and grateful to have is the support of national partners. And so on July 15th, we announced our partnership with JCPenney as they introduced Thereabouts, which is a new inclusive line of kids apparel that celebrates diversity of shape, of sizes, of styles, abilities, to ensure that every kid can confidently express their style as they head into the classroom. And I want to talk a little bit, the Thereabouts line has all the back to school essentials, from basics to uniforms, sleep to outerwear, and a variety of shoe styles designed for all ages, from toddler to big kid. The Thereabouts line is a size inclusive brand running from 2T to 22, including plus and husky. And it's that way JCPenney as a great corporate partner, but also living out its value through the product line Thereabouts. JCPenney stepped up in a big way to support Communities in Schools. They donated $100,000 to Communities in Schools to help fund the programming that empowers students to stay in school and achieve in life. And so we're grateful for their partnership, and we thank them for being all in for kids this back to school season, a back to school season that I'm sure they know a lot about as they track in their industry. And Communities in Schools is committed to being part of a movement for systemic change at every level, so that one day every child will grow up in a country where they are celebrated for their diversity, celebrated and feel included in our national institutions, and receive equitable justice and treatment under the law. These are big concepts that we should be unapologetic in advocating and fighting for our schools and our students and their families. And so to help us kick off the conversation around diversity inclusion in education, I'd like for you all to help me just please welcome Kevin Updegrove from wherever you are virtually. Kevin Updegrove from JCPenney. Kevin is their Senior Director of Corporate Communications, Talent Acquisition, Inclusion and Diversity, and Philanthropy for over 25 years. Kevin Updegrove has been an accomplished leader in the retail industry. His career at JCPenney started as a part-time sales associate, which sparked his passion for serving the customer. And during his tenure, Kevin has filled various leadership roles in stores, store operations, marketing, and human resources. He also sits on the Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas DEI Corporate Council and actively volunteers at various organizations in North Texas. I asked where he was calling from. I'm in San Antonio as I do this call, and Kevin is in Dallas. But Kevin, are you there?
Yes. Hello. Thank you, Ray.
Hey, Kevin,
And hello, everybody.
thank you so much for joining us. Just how are you doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, it's nearing the middle of the week, and we're getting through another hot week in Texas, as you know, you're further south, but yeah, we're doing well, and it's already September. Tomorrow's September, so entering the fall season, a big time of year for us at JCPenney.
Absolutely, and it certainly is a big time of the year for us at communities and schools. So your back to school season is the same back to school season that we have. So with that, let's talk a little bit about some of the questions that want to jump into here. And so I mentioned earlier how JCPenney recently launched the new kids clothing line, Thereabouts. Just tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind the apparel and why it is that JCPenney decided to create this collection for kids, and why now?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. I think Thereabouts is definitely one of those. It was one of our bigger brand launches that we've launched in quite some time. So, and in the kid space, it was very unique to a new brand that we launched. And at JCPenney, the work that we were doing around Thereabouts line is we believe that kids should be kids. We think that kids should be confident to be able to play and learn in clothes that keep up with them. So comfort and, there's fashion to it, there's excitement, there's color. And the reason that it came out that Thereabouts is really designed for all kids. It's definitely our most inclusive line ever that we've done in the kid space. And we were really proud to launch it just in time for the new school year. Kids have been through a lot, Ray, probably from the work you're doing, communities and schools and your own family. Kids have been through a lot. We've been through a lot in the past year. And really navigating those virtual learning spaces through the global pandemic, the changes, the routine, changes throughout time. But, we really looked at this clothing line, the Thereabouts line, as providing options that inspire confidence. And we can make it fun at the same time. So really getting kids excited about, their apparel too. Because that's one less thing they should have to worry about, one less thing that parents should have to worry about. And really the work that we've done with communities and schools to launch Thereabouts, we were really excited that relationship so that we could contribute to the programming that you all do that helps kids succeed in school. So they're succeeding and they're comfortable in Thereabouts clothing. So that's a little bit about the background, but just kind of understand where JCPenney is going with the Thereabouts, and our goal is to really be a leader in providing a diversity of options and inclusivity. Thereabouts celebrates diversity of shapes, sizes, abilities, styles, and we were very excited to offer the clothing with adaptive features as well. It just goes beyond basics for Thereabouts. There's exciting styles that allow kids to express themselves. There's inclusive sizing across the assortment, from uniforms and everyday wear to, outerwear, which there may be some hitting the floor, maybe on our .com site, but you'll see that throughout the upcoming winter season, and sleepwear as well. Sizes range from 2T all the way up to size 22, including plus and husky. And some of those examples of adaptive apparel that I talked about is, clothing for kids with disabilities that may have sensory, dexterity, or mobility needs. Examples of these features are easy access openings and also tagless clothing.
Yeah, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing this. I think for our audience who are communities and schools, either staff or supporters, I think what they get to see here is a real alignment. And oftentimes when we're leaders of nonprofits or we work in nonprofits, we hope that the kind of supporters we're able to attract to our work align with our mission and our values. And I think that's why we wanted to lift up what it is JCPenney was doing, because it really does align with the kind of diversity, equity, inclusion that we hope to see around the way that we are conforming schools to support all students in a way perhaps we hadn't done so well in the past. And in that way, I think it's great to see the way the industry is responding in a specific way that could be similar to that of communities and schools. So I want to just check in on this question, which is, we know that JCPenney is not new to the social responsibility world. Just tell us what attracted the company to communities and schools, and why did you choose CIS as your nonprofit partner?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ray. And I think I mirror what you just said is I think it's important when we look at how we extend our corporate giving or our partnerships, we look for the same values and really the focus of what JCPenney stands for. And, we do have a rich history in focusing on social responsibility from vendors that we work with all the way to the communities that we serve. And, because communities and schools share so many of our commitments, to closing the opportunity gap to help all kids succeed in both school and life. Now the more than ever, kids do need more support and they need the communities behind them. And that's why we were so happy to give to communities and schools to help increase that positive impact that, the organization is making in students' lives across the country.
Well, we thank you for that. And I think it just gives us a good sense as a national organization that there is a want and a need to try to support organizations and connect between our corporate partners in the diverse communities that we're in all across the country. And at Communities and Schools, our core work really is centered around creating equitable learning conditions for all students, regardless of their background. So in that spirit, we have tried to make a journey in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So can you share what your diversity, equity, and inclusion, or what that means to JCPenney and how you're infusing it into your brand and your work?
Yeah, definitely. And, a little bit of history lesson on JCPenney. So for those of you who may not know, JCPenney was founded on the Golden Rule 119 years ago. So, that started, James Cash Penney, our founder, in 1902. I mean, that was the heart of everything he did. He was dedicated to the community. He gave, what he was able to in the beginning all the way through even to present day. And it's just always stuck and it's a big part of JCPenney's DNA. And our company's commitment to helping to close the opportunity gap in local communities reinforces our inclusion diversity strategy, which is, it's a journey of growth that we take together every day to ensure that our customers, our associates, and our vendors of all backgrounds feel safe, valued, and respected at JCPenney. And we get to this work through education, accountability, investment. That every day we inspire our customers to, and we cultivate our leaders at JCPenney and innovate through strategic partners to serve all communities. So 672 stores across the nation in 49 states and Puerto Rico. We carry that message across to all of our stores and communities that we serve. So every day, we live and we really try to strive as associates to share our commitments and work with our customers to continue that process and to continue that journey within the community as well.
Well, 100+ year history. You're in, at this point, 49 states. Usually I think about our scale at CIS and I think we're big. Today we're in 26 states, so catching up to you all perhaps at some point. But I think in that way, we oftentimes have to really pay respect to the communities we're in and the diversity of those communities and their culture, their experience. And I think that's what you've touched on with the history of JCPenney. I want to maybe shift to a question here. And this is we saw it in a 2020 Forbes article that stated that the pressure on brands speaking up is being exerted not only by protesters on the streets, but also by a broader shift in attitudes that encompass customers and employees. And what that tells us is neutrality is no longer an option. So what role do you think brands can play in moving the needle towards social justice and equality? Because it's something that certainly is on the minds of a lot of our nonprofit leaders who are working with our partners.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think it's a really good call out and a great question, Ray, because I think brands, small or large, I think, there's been this big shift, not just necessarily only in the last year, but it's been an ongoing, demand on the consumer. But, I think consumers today are really tuned in more than ever to support brands and products that align with their personal values. And, I don't think it's new, but I think it's increasing. And I think it's really been, called out definitely more in the past year, where companies are expected from their consumers to show up. And I think that corporate social responsibility is no longer nice to have. I think it has to be fundamental to a brand's DNA and how it lives up to its company's values every day. And, That's one thing why I've stuck around at JCPenney for as long as I have, and why I love this company, because I think inclusivity and equity is at the heart of everything we do, from our employment brand to our customer facing and in our stores and .com. I think we do many things from responsible sourcing efforts. We support supplier diversity, and then we invest in our communities, in addition to inclusive product offerings that we offer in store and .com. So we definitely have multiple points of entry to engage and influence change. And I think this example of our partnership with, buy something at JCPenney, we give something to a partner, is just, the beginning of what, possibilities we could have, supporting organizations like community and schools.
Yeah, I mean, with the brand Thereabouts, that being an initiative that you all are partnering with communities and schools with, I think it just proves, again, this example of not just the statements that we may hear or see from brands or corporations, but really what's the work behind it to truly get their support into the communities that they're currently working in. And I think it was through our partnership that we learned how JCPenney has been recognized. It's, I think, quote, best of the best, the annual review series, that you were chosen among 900 leading corporations for achieving excellence in diversity by expanding career advancement opportunities for American minority groups. So how do you think initiatives like this and others help to pave the path for our Black, our Brown, our Indigenous students who are living in poverty, who strive for success in school and in life?
Yeah, so I think initiatives and focused development on things like how do we bridge that opportunity gap, to help from an early age. That's the starting point. I think that's so much of the work that we do in supporting organizations, to start at that point where we help communities, kids, young adults, really set them up for success at the beginning. So I think career-wise, that's the end point. I mean, we have to start early on, as to set individuals and our communities and partners up for success.
Well, I think, Kevin, thank you so much for just walking us through a little bit of the journey, the history, the real-time investment that you all are making, and how you are doing it by aligning with the values that have been established by JCPenney, and how that looks and feels like the values that we are expressing at communities and schools. I thank you for coming on today, for sharing your perspective on just such a relevant topic to the students that we serve, but also the leaders of our organization who are wondering, what does a partnership look like with our local companies and corporations, especially those who are stepping up in important ways to talk about outcomes for our students. And so in that way, I think it's such a great partnership that we wanted to lift up and celebrate. And we thank you for being part of the conversation here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ray. And again, thank you to all of you for the work that you do in communities and schools. We're delighted to help with that cause and look forward to future opportunities.
Well, thank you again, Kevin. And thank you to those folks who tuned in to watch and to see really what this great partnership and what others can look like as JCPenney models with CIS. What a great partnership looks like to really benefit students in this moment of crisis that we talked about a little bit at the outset, that there's sometimes crisis on top of crisis on top of crisis. And it's, as I've explained to some of the students who I've talked to, some of the alumni, it's as if they buried us with so many challenges, but what they didn't realize is that we were seeds, and we're going to grow from this in incredible ways. So we thank you for being part of our conversation today. And thank you for getting to know the work of community schools. Again, thank you to JCPenney and Kevin. And again, if you want to know and learn more about us, please visit us at communitiesandschools.org. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great week.